Good evening and welcome to Anime-Zing Radio here on YouTube and Twitch. Unfortunately for our Facebook viewers, uh, there has been some policy changes, and so I've got to look into trying to get the Facebook side of things working again. So I do apologize, but welcome to Anime-Zing Radio. I'm your host, Doug Engler. Joining me as always in the co-host seat are our good friends, Miss Angela Rose
Hello, everyone.
and Mr. Darren Starling.
Hello.
Tonight we're going to be talking about the spring 2024 anime season, which is currently wrapping up. We're going to be talking about the shows that we've enjoyed, shows that were subpar, shows that we should have watched but didn't. Looking at Darren.
That's like 80% of the list.
I wasn't gonna call him out.
Hey, I'll call myself out.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I'm busy. Really busy.
I understand.
And I also apologize that we did not have a show on Sunday due to my work schedule. I was not around. Angela, you said you had a bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah, we did. By the time I got home, it was definitely after 8 p.m. June into July, it's birthday season, it's summertime, and all of those social obligations, and when they all accidentally line up on the same day, it's a thing.
And we all know Darren could have used the rest, so he didn't die.
I actually was asleep because that was the day it did hit over 100, and I didn't feel like going around giving any estimates. I don't do that kind of work on Sunday in the first place. So I literally came home, got a shower, and went to bed instead of watching anime because the heat and my crew they were not a good combination together.
Yeah. No, heat's bad. That level of heat and probably that level of humidity, if my knowledge of the South is up to date, equals bad news bears.
And stress from running a shift.
That too. And shout outs to John Knight and Ross in the chat joining us on a last minute planned show. Welcome, guys.
Or Wednesday. It's Wednesday. My days working for the railroad, my days get all screwed up too.
I work a 9 to 5 and my days get screwed up.
Both of y'all just put songs in my head. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. That happens to me all the time.
Same.
Between working on the railroad and Dolly Parton's 9 to 5.
It's funny you say songs because I do have a song that's been stuck in my head lately. It's not anime related. It's AJR's, I think it's their latest song that they put out called "Steve's Going to London." The song's just too damn catchy and been stuck in my head for a few weeks now.
See, bringing this to actually on relevant topic notes.
Ah, damn it!
The theme from Kaiju 8 has been on my cycle of songs on repeat. I don't know the name of the song, but it's by Youngblood, and it is fantastic.
And we have an Ainz sighting.
I see. But I got a question for y'all. I've asked several people, but I want y'all's opinion. Which song pertains to me more? Working Man by Rush or Blue Collar Man by Styx?
Crazy Train by Ozzy.
That's you.
I was actually gonna argue that's me, but I don't know.
I'm not sure. But we're way off topic from what we're going to be talking about tonight, and I take blame for that.
I tried, and Ross says War by Edwin Starr.
But the 2024 spring anime season brought us some really good shows, brought us some shows that were exactly what we expected, and brought us some shows that I in my case anyway, I lost interest in early on.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to sum up the season. And I can say, well, I believe our watch lists only had 2 in common. I can say pretty much the same.
And it was supposed to be all three of us on one, but me, no time. And that didn't happen.
Uh,
I can still make it up,
you
but
can.
it's gonna take some effort.
Also, want to
Yeah.
remind everybody that this Sunday we're going to have a crazy show. Parental advisory is advised. It will be 18 plus because we've got a
Content
wild guest
warnings
and
because
we have a wild guest and an even wilder co-host.
And
And I think it's the first time the two of them have actually talked. So I
think
don't know
you are
what's going to
correct.
happen.
One's gonna feed off the other, and no holds barred.
And-
We won't even need Ross to keep the distractions coming. I think they'll do that on their own.
and to think that I used to be the one with the 18 plus content.
And you used to be the distractor in the chat.
Exactly.
We're finding people that take your jobs.
Well, no, someone's got to replace you in that job. You got promoted to co-host.
I know, right? But hey, before I was a co-host and after I was a distractor, I was a guest.
It all happens gradually.
Yep.
But we'll start off with a show that all of us were originally going to watch, but Darren's lack of time and his work schedule and stuff has kept him from. Because you said you've only been able to actually pay attention to like 2 or 3 shows.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the show you suggested all of us watch was not one of them at this point. But like you said, due to the weather here on the eastern side of the U.S., there's a chance that you might take a day to where you can just kind of relax and binge a few things. And I highly recommend this one. And that is The Many Sides of Voice Actor Radio.
Agreed. Highly recommend. I'll be honest. Going in, I did not actually expect to enjoy it. I agreed to watch it because content, and I knew it was going to be, if nothing else, relevant to what we do here. I ended up actually really, for me, wonderful, wonderful story. Can't recommend it enough, and it honestly impressed me.
And that's rare coming from you.
This season, or every now and again, some really good, for lack of a better word, slice of life, or like a good just drama comes along, and it is fantastic. This season, there were 2 of those that I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah. And much like Angela, I went into watching the show and knowing that Darren is going to watch it at some point in time, we're going to try to be as spoiler free as we can be. Also, especially where I finished the last episode probably about a half hour ago, and Angela is 1 episode behind. I don't want to spoil anything from the last episode for her. The storyline was really good. It, like she said, it wasn't what I was expecting, although I don't know what I was expecting going in.
I don't know what I was expecting. That was not it.
Yeah, and what we got was not it. But following 2 aspiring voice actors who are, still in school and happen to not only go to the same school, but be in the same class. Both trying to keep their identities a secret at first. And as the storyline progresses, you see an interesting side of voice acting that usually is kept hidden unless something majorly happens.
And a very interesting side of what I will chalk up to pretty pretty standard high school girl life. They did a really good job with that, with their feelings towards each other.
And it was kind of neat too to see the two main voice actors of this show, how they portrayed themselves, especially early on, between their personal and their professional personas, where they both put on different faces when depending on where they were at. If they were at school, they acted one way. If they were in the recording studio, they were completely different.
Yep.
And then when you see the trials and tribulations that they have to go through, I found myself rooting for them at points where I was like, come on, you can do this, you can get through depending on the challenges that were going on. And the fact that they put the two of them together for a morning radio talk show was interesting to see how their personalities, interacted and the clashes.
I'm still waiting for one thing to happen, and I hope it happens in the final episode. And if it doesn't, I will be a little disappointed, but
I'm curious as to what it is, but I also don't want to say if it does or does not happen.
I want to see the two main characters tell each other what they really think and have that conversation. Don't say a word, because I don't want that spoiled.
I'm not going to say a word.
But when we next sit down to watch anime, that will likely be one of the first things we watch.
I will say that buckle up. It was a really good conclusion episode.
Oh, good.
You got to see. You got like at the end of episode 11. I think the blonde hair girl asked the blue hair girl her opinions about the voice acting.
And that's
conversation where I think that ends
is
off.
how it ended.
You get to hear the actual response, and then you get to see them go into the booth to record the last episode of the project they're working on, and I will let the rest speak for itself when you see it.
I'm looking forward to it. And Ross has opinions. I don't like that the anime Codename Memory is getting a second season. The romance is dry and the ending is eh. Yeah, there's for every standout show that we can go on at great length about, there's at least 3 or 4 that are mediocre, and why? And just you watch and you're just like, but why?
Yeah. Well, Japan.
Well, yes.
Because don't forget, they technically have more influence in the international. Well, correction, they have total influence versus the international audience.
Well, yes, and I think this just circles back to a conversation we've had many times about how they're just. It seems like these days they're focusing on getting out as much content as possible, as opposed to focusing on making.
It's now quantity over quality.
Exactly.
It's 50-50. Yes, it feels like a lot of the older shows we watched were more quality. But in the end, the animes for most series are an advertisement for the source materials themselves. They're trying to get you invested into reading the manga, light novel, playing the visual novel that it originated from.
Or the video game, in some cases.
Yep. Because speaking of which, Uma Musume is doing a whole lot with their games.
Doesn't surprise me. And
Nor me.
there's got to be another season of that coming out in the future, I'm sure.
Well, about to say, season 1 was great, season 2 was great, season 3 I got about halfway through, but
season 3 was pretty good too.
Exactly. So I mean, at least they're consistent with Reputation on that.
And going back onto the shows from this season, one show that Darren and I both have watched, Konosuba season 3. I know I said going into after watching the first few episodes, it's more of just the same Konosuba, more of the same stupidity and stuff like that. It got better as it went on. Kazuma actually grew a pair.
Mm-hmm.
And Aqua actually proved herself to be somewhat useful, surprisingly.
And
Megumin didn't totally blow stuff up this time. That was a neat explosion. That's all I got to say.
I like the fact that she tried to hold herself back and then just couldn't.
Now, did either of you actually watch Cheat Skill Level 2?
No. Yes. On the list, but
because Ross's comment is saying the romance was more like a farce romance or forced romance. I can't read, and not mutual, so it was bad. Thoughts, Doug?
I felt like coming from the romance side of things, I don't know that it was so much force romance. I think it came down to where Rice was overpowered, and based on her race, when they're overpowered, they typically become attached to the person that beat them. And that being the case, she did what she was supposed to, and at first he did not have the same feelings about her, but as they spent more time together, and as you see in some shows, the more two characters spend time together, the feelings can develop mutually back and forth, which it does happen. It does feel like it's a little bit off the wall, but let's be honest, when it comes to romance, love, things of that nature, the stupidest stuff can have the biggest effects when it comes to feelings between people.
And I think that might just, I mean,
we all love our storybook romances where the male and the main male, female characters, you can see that there's a chemistry, and eventually it feels like the ideal romance. But let's be honest, love does not happen like that.
And some of it is also just writing quality. I think some of it really just boils down to how the characters were written. And if you're trying to write a romance and one of the characters is completely two-dimensional and flat, yeah, it's going to be bad.
Speaking of dimensional, that's actually a show coming out next season, 2.5 Dimensional Girlfriend, I believe.
Is that one on your list, Aaron?
Yes.
I mean, I think the romance in skill level 2 was better than the romance. I think the romance in that was better than like the romance in Konosuba.
I'm about to say what romance, because he might have grown a pair, but still.
He grew a pair, but I think in Kazuma's mind, I think he's torn because I think deep down inside, he's got feelings for Megaman and for Darkness. They're just
I,
not.
I I can see that, but he's also traumatized by a certain chimera.
From
Yeah.
Ross to Darren, 2.5 dimensional seduction? Question
Thank
mark.
you. Yes, 2.5 dimensional seduction. Thank you.
And John Knight sharing with us that the English dub for Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba Hashira Trading Arc is scheduled to premiere Sunday on Crunchyroll.
Oh, that reminds me. Someone came through the drive-through the other day with a Demon Slayer shirt, and I said, "Hey, can I give you a suggestion?" He's like, "What's that?" I was like, "Watch better anime." He's like, "Come on, man, really?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean what I said though."
I I've had those moments. I've had moments like that at jobs. It's always interesting. People's
Yeah.
reaction people's
It,
reactions to things.
it's always nice to see people out in anime merch in general, but when it's stuff like that, you just gotta pick on them. It's just like every time someone comes through in a My Hero Academia shirt, I tell them the exact same thing. But if
I
they come in, with something else, trying to think of something that they've come in with.
see. I would
I mean,
argue right now, Jujutsu Kaisen is almost worse.
it's funny. I was gonna say one of my employees actually has a lanyard, and it's a JJK lanyard.
But we have digressed.
We have derailed.
We
Yes,
derail our we
We
derail
did it to
ourselves.
ourselves.
Yeah. Next show up on the list to chat about, and I would do one that Angela and Darren are both watching, but I don't think there are any shows that the two of you are watching that's the same right now.
I don't think so
Because
either.
only because I didn't start half of what I was supposed to. Well, actually,
Yeah.
80% of what I was supposed to.
Because there was a question. I don't remember if there was one that you and I agreed on that Doug did not.
I think there was one. I gotta look.
And John's catching up on My Hero Academia. Speaking of My Hero Academia season 7, I think the sub. I'm watching My Hero subbed. And the one we watched tonight was a fantastic episode. However, I'm going to not spoil anything because we're coming up at the end of an arc and I don't want to spoil anything. But the episode we watched had some really good backstory for one hero character and one villain character, and it was the comparison kind of simultaneous. The way they did it was really, really well done.
And next show to chat about, Bartender, which is a remake of an older show, which going into the season, I had never heard of it before, and didn't know it was a remake until Angela had told us. And that was a show that I went into not knowing what to expect. I went in with an open mind. It seemed kind of interesting, and it was, in my opinion, probably one of the, if not the best, top 2 best shows I saw this season.
For me, it was the best. It was also on my radar for a very long, for quite some time before the season. I went in with very high hopes for this one. I hadn't seen the original, but I did know it was a remake, and it lived up to my expectations. I absolutely loved it, and that is exactly the kind of slice of life I absolutely adore. They don't make them like that very often. When they do, they are amazing.
And I have to ask, the bartender and the hotel owner's granddaughter, the blonde girl, You'd think that they would make a good couple.
I don't know.
Because
Honestly,
they get mistaken as a couple a few times.
I could see it being I could see it them being a couple, but at the same time I could also just see them being besties.
Yeah. Part of me wants to see them get together, but
And part of me is grateful that they didn't go into
focus.
that.
Yeah.
Like that didn't take over everything else. Cuz I am not against a good romance, as y'all have learned in recent seasons. But
You're just not a school romance person.
no, it's more of a I'm not into romance that is shoehorned in or romance for the sake of having a romance plot. Like if you're gonna do a romance, write it well and make that be the entire show.
Like My Dress Up Darling.
Dress Up Darling, My Happy Marriage,
Dangers
sign
in
of
my dangers in my heart.
sign of affection. I mean, there's been
Vending
a
Machine.
I God damn it, Doug.
High five, sir. You got her off guard. Good job.
I'll get you.
I don't get her like that very often, but when I do, oh, it's priceless.
Yup. But no, Bartender was my top anime for the season.
And you know that it was a good series when you go back and you watch other animes that may have times where it's a familiar or a similar atmosphere at times, and you're comparing the atmosphere from other shows to this one. Like I mentioned before, I have when I'm stuck in a hotel or something for 20 plus hours, there are times when I'll rewatch a series and binge it. And I went back and rewatched Tina Matsuri, and there's a lot of scenes that take place in a bar. And I found myself comparing those scenes to Bartender, where I was learning a lot in Bartender about being a bartender and the science and stuff that goes behind it. Which it's amazing to think that there's like, and I know it's an anime, but I also know that a lot of animes do put a lot of, creators put a lot of thought into and a lot of research into the works that they do, whether it's a manga, light novel, whatever, going and that gets adapted into the anime. And so it was really kind of neat. And I'm not really a person that goes to a bar, but I found myself watching, going, "Man, I kind of want to go to a bar and just see if this really." I'm sure here in the U.S. it's a lot different than it is in Japan, but it'd be neat to do some comparisons.
Here in the US, depending on the type of bar, I actually I went to a bar recently with some friends, and it's one of those, as friends of mine like to refer to, hipster bars, like high-end cocktails and the like. And we actually had a very not unlike Bartender experience, where our drinks came out and it was very much like that. A dive bar is obviously not going to be like that.
Yeah.
Not here.
Ross in the chat says, "Grandma and Grandpa turned young again anime ended good, and so did Studio Apartment. Good lighting, Angel included." I did like how Studio Apartment ended. Grandma and Grandpa was one that it was good, but due to the amount of stuff I was watching, I just did not keep up with. Um, Also, there was one that I had started, Train to the End of the World, at the beginning of the season that I commented about. Like the first couple episodes were really trippy, and then it just was like, I don't care. I lost interest in it. It didn't keep me. It didn't keep my interest long enough to warrant continuing the series.
I believe both of you are watching this one, but John Knight in the chat says final episode for Mushoku Tensei is scheduled for June 30th, which is Sunday.
Yep.
We are watching it. I am one episode behind currently due to the fact that my work schedule has kept me out of the house. And that is a show that I've been watching with my wife, and I do not want to go ahead. So
that's fair.
And I still can't believe they did what they did on Father's Day, but then again, I think that's predominantly a U.S. holiday.
Agree. Yeah, no, a lot of those. There's a lot of holidays that are U.S. only.
Ross is begging me to please finish the Grandpa and Grandma anime. Maybe my next hotel stay I will.
No, and I had one. I had one that we started. We got 2 episodes in, and we kind of agreed that then we hit a patch where we just got behind, and we're so far behind on everything that when we went back, we just ended up not going back to it. And I think this is another one. The premise actually got me, but the actual execution was kind of not what I wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
what other shows were you watching, Darren? Was it just Mushoku Tensei and Konosuba?
Yes, I was trying to start Slime, Slime season 3, but I barely got into the first episode and unfortunately lost time.
I was gonna say, did you fall asleep?
No, I literally just lost time.
Fair.
Because by the time I was ready for that, it was 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and I had to be up at 4:30 in the morning. So
No,
you could say I fell asleep, but I made the decision to fall asleep.
Valid. No, my in true me fashion, my watch list for the season was a little all over the place.
Yeah.
But highlights include Kaiju 8. I actually really like where that one's going. It's very it is some level of stereotype shonen like anime, but also it's not. My Hero Academia we already touched on. Another one that I was surprised with how much actual depth they gave the characters was a shonen called Windbreaker.
That's me on the daily.
But it was surprisingly really good.
For me, looking back through Banished Former Hero Lives As He Pleases, that was it was not amazing, but it was a good show. If I was going to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 6.5 or a 7. So it wasn't just mindless. Like I watched. What show was it that I watched? Reincarnated as a 7th prince, so I can take my time working on my magical ability.
Mm-hmm.
that was the like that was the major nonsense stupidity anime that I watched it because it seemed kind of like the art style seemed interesting, and at the same point in time, why they draw him like that, I don't know. They did him dirty. Because I saw many comments on social media about, is the main character a boy or a girl? It's hard to tell based on how they're dressed. And it
The
had
answer,
definitely
the answer is Hideyoshi.
it was definitely like the concept of the show was interesting, but at the same point in time, it's one that I watched. It was okay. I'll move on
All
and
right.
find better stuff.
Okay. Going back in the chat. To address John Nate's comment, John, if you like shonen, check it out. It is definitely worth the watch if you like shonen. There's definitely some really good character development as well. For anybody who doesn't necessarily enjoy shonen, would not necessarily recommend, but there's that. And then Ross says there's an anime coming out, and part of the plot I want to ask Doug, do you like stories where the main character is told he can't be something and is told he's useless but trains and becomes the strongest?
Sounds like
Uh,
Austin.
I was
I've
going to say
watched
that
I've
sounds
watched a
like
few of
you
them.
two. That sounds like something you both would enjoy. But it's called I Parry Everything.
I mean, I do like some of those types of shows. Like I said before, when we looked ahead briefly at the summer stuff coming out, and there wasn't a whole lot that jumped out at me.
I don't
think
even
I'm more
remember if
interested in the fall stuff than I am in the summer stuff.
the biggest upcoming thing that I'm looking forward to is season 2 of Gun Gale. And I don't remember if that's summer or fall.
I'm waiting for Miss Alia, however you want to pronounce it. Hide your feelings in Russian.
I mean, we're also all waiting for time.
I'm about to say Pink Floyd. Time.
Knowing Ross how much you love romance, Archdemon's Dilemma: How to Love Your Elf Bride. That was an interesting show. I kind of enjoyed that one. I'm curious as to what your opinion was on the romance side of things. It's one of those awkward romance ones where, based on the sequence of events that happened and how this basically like warlord or archdemon or archmage or whatever he becomes purchases an elf slave from a previous archdemon who died, and they were auctioning off all of his belongings. And he basically wants this girl because he thinks she's cute and he wants to help her. And then feelings develop slowly through time. And so it's kind of
Vegas Bride-ish.
Kinda.
Ross says Archdemon Dilemma was good. The romance is so there at least progress with handholding instead of just ending it with no progress.
Yeah, it was slow, but there was progress there, and you could see some emotions that were there, and there were times when the episode I could see how it could hit people in the feels. And I think that comes down to good story it's well enough written and entertaining enough that it does pull you in, and you kind of want to see what happens, and you kind of get attached to these characters, which I think is one thing that we all look for when we're watching shows, whether it be isekai or shonen or sports or music or whatever it may be. You want to find you really gravitate towards shows where you can relate to the characters or really feel a connection.
Yep.
100%.
Like vending machine.
Speaking
Nope.
of which, the show to go viral for next season, there is a meme making the round. Well, not a meme. There is a video making the rounds on the internet, and it's all about the deer. It has literally blown up within the past week and a half, 2 weeks since we last even mentioned it. My
So,
dear friend Nokotan.
I did see some like video clips while scrolling through Facebook where that popped up.
And Doug, this is for you. Back on the Banished Hero does as he pleases. I know he has feelings for Henriette because they both have pasts with each other, says Ross.
Yeah. I can agree with that he has feelings for Henriette, but I also think he develops feelings for the other princess from the world that they're living in now. And, Henriette has feelings towards him as well. Actually, both girls have feelings towards him as well. And I kind of feel like the elf girl does and the Amazonian chick does too. I think he's getting his own little harem, which is right up Darren's alley.
Where do you find these girls that catch feelings for guys? I would love to meet some of them.
Feelings are complicated.
Well, I guess, and also in order for people to catch someone, you actually have to go out in public, which I don't do.
You're in public. It's just you're at work.
That doesn't stop some people.
No, it does not. Although, have you tried axe throwing?
No, I barely have time to breathe.
I say this, that's like my thing.
I used to bowl, but I don't even have time for that anymore.
That's why you gotta drop your part-time gig, and that's why you gotta drop Bojangles and focus more on the landscaping, where you'd have more
some
free
self-care time.
Yeah. We've only been on your case about that for how many years?
A year and a half.
Year and a half for you, multiple years for me, and it's not so much that we want you to quit Bojangles because we don't like you, don't want you working two jobs, but it's more of we're concerned for your health and mental well-being.
Exactly.
My mental well-being is fine. It's just a matter of my social well-being is not.
No, and that.
But you still make it out to conventions.
I try. Besides, I'm waiting for our store to go under remodel here within the next month because we've been on the list for God knows how long. So when they do that, I'm definitely cutting my hours back because I won't have the same level of responsibility, and I can basically tell whatever store I get sent to, yeah, I'm not doing that. Bye.
Or just use that as your
exit.
Yeah, why not?
I would love to. The only problem with that is I just can't leave my boss like that just yet. She still has to train her other managers to do my job. And my vacation helped, but it wasn't enough.
No, and I actually do respect that. Because I was in a very similar boat with a different fast food chain, and when I finally left, Like, there was a series of incidents that just that broke me to the point of I just lost any and all respect for management and just gave my notice and stuck with it.
Well, this
I was
particular one, I just can't do that too. If it was my previous boss, I'd have said heck yes, but this one, I can't do that too.
oh no, and I respect that.
Oh yeah, I've had quite a few managers where it's like I go above and beyond just because of the manager themselves, and
Oh yeah.
And the fact that they take care of you
yeah,
Oh no.
as much as they're able to.
Oh no, I distinctly remember one of the best managers I ever worked for during my fast food days sat there and cried with me when my dad passed away.
Hmm.
And that actually meant something.
You know, it was sad. It was actually kind of refreshing. I don't know how to feel about this, but when my dad was in the hospital or had recently passed away, I forget which. There were several customers that knew me, and when they saw me at work, they started to attack my boss. Like, why the hell is he here? And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa! I chose to be here. She has nothing to do with this.
yeah. I mean,
I was glad
you
they were
appreciated
concerned.
the concern.
Yep.
John Knight in the chat says he is now on episode 20 of the free run dub. And Ross says, Darren, your anime is coming out this summer. Loner Life in Another World.
I'm looking forward to days with my stepsister. You can hear a pin drop.
You said that, and the first thing that popped into my head was A Sister's All You Need.
Yeah. Well, explain to me why the sister-esque anime always tend to have the better romance aspects thrown into the series. I've never understood that. Be it stepsister or the few that are actually brother sister.
I think they focus on that because of the forbidden love aspect side of things.
I think that's just Japan.
John Knight in the chat also says Moonlit Fantasy Season 3 has officially been announced.
But
then that bit I sent you a minute ago, the fact that that's getting a new project after all these years.
I know. I've seen images, I've heard rumblings, but
it's confirmed. Ranma 1/2 is getting something new.
Hopefully it's better than the spin-off of Inuyasha. Because Inuyasha, a lot of us, it was our first animes. It was our gateway anime after shows like Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Sailor Moon, things of that nature. A lot of people either discovered anime or rediscovered anime thanks to the Inuyasha time frame. And when they came out with Yashahime, I was excited, and the nostalgia was neat to watch, but I don't think the show for whatever reason didn't hit as good as Inuyasha did when it originally started, which I think is why I lost interest and eventually dropped it. I never finished it.
Question. Go ahead, Ange.
No, go ahead. Question.
No, I was gonna say, speaking of nostalgia, did you watch the new Spice and Wolf, Doug?
I watched one episode and have not gone back to it. I want to see, but
I've heard mostly positives coming from it. I mean, but then again, with Holo, there's not a lot to complain about.
I think this kind of gets into. I have a tendency, I've noticed, that I don't rewatch shows.
Neither do I. I was rewatching High School DxD the other day only because I was showing it to someone.
Like, but I just assume that's a me thing.
I
But it,
think going back to rewatching a show and stuff, I think a lot of it comes down to A, do you have the time to invest in rewatching a show you've already seen? B, how much did that show have an effect on you when it first came out? Are you rewatching it just to kill time? Are you rewatching it to see if it still has the same effect? Are you rewatching it because people started talking about it again and you wanted to go back and see what the hype was?
Or
and
are you rewatching it because the first time you went through, the subtitles of all the extra text on the screen weren't translated and now they are? Because sometimes that little bit of extra text on the screen can change the whole scene into something different.
hmm but it kind of goes like to your point about Inuyasha versus Yashahime. I'm kind of hoping that Ranma 1/2 will actually be a really good reboot. That being said, I don't know.
I'm just glad that they're actually taking a look at some of these older series and doing reboots in the first place, which means that some older series that may have ended prematurely may actually have a chance of getting more material.
Um, I will say one of those that I really enjoyed was Trigun Stampede, and when it was airing, I talked quite a bit about my thoughts on that. Um,
Well,
so it's very interesting to see just the sheer number of older sh- older content getting some form of update,
it's
remake, sequel.
it's kind of funny how it seems like of all things, oh Lord, help me here. Help me here, Doug. What show am I thinking of? High School
Uh,
Girls. Uh,
um,
uh,
no idea. High School
yeah,
Girls, that limits it down to about 50% of the shows out there.
no, it was someone in it. It was a theme in the show. High School Girls, High School Girls. Da, 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 da. Uh, it's there was a whole thing in the show that you said they cut out when they did the remake.
Oh, Fruits Basket.
Yes, thank you. Of all series, that seemed to be the series they used as a testing the waters for rebooting a series. And it seems like we've been getting a lot more remakes or continuations ever since that came out.
And
Haven't you noticed that? That
Yeah.
um
that was like that was like one of the first big ones, and it just seems like a lot have been following suit afterwards.
I didn't piece that together, but now that you say that, yes. And John Knight in the chat says this year marks the 35th anniversary of Ron 1/2. I feel old now.
Wow. I still have not seen Ranma One Half.
Neither
Uh,
have I.
I've seen a few episodes. I saw a couple of episodes. That was that was the show that one of my good friends decided to use to keep me distracted when I was in the process of getting my divorce. My friend decided, "You're coming with me. You need to not be left alone." He was right. brought me up, sat me down on his couch, put on Ranma 1/2, and used that to keep me distracted from wallowing in my own self pity.
And that's one of I heard that's one of the original ecchi-ish series, or was it one of the more original out of whack series?
About what I couldn't actually tell you anything about it. I file it under pardon my language, what the fuck did I just watch?
Basically, it's a fully coolie level. Aho Girl, the Pop Team Epic. Gotcha.
I don't remember. So I'm honestly I'm honestly going to wait for the new content, watch it, and then see if that
Judge it then.
actually jogs any memory of the original.
And John Knight says, speaking of Fruits Basket, I got Fruits Basket 2001 Complete Series Blu-ray from Second and Charles. That's cool. And Ross says, this year is the 10th anniversary of Your Lie in April.
Wow. Where's the time gone?
All right.
Speaking of time, we are just about out of time because I need to be at work in an hour. So we are going to be calling it a good night.
I think that is a wonderful time to say good night and see you on Sunday.
Remember, Sunday we have got a great guest and a great co-host. It is going to be an 18+ show because anything could happen.
Not that we expect it to, but we want anyone following to be prepared for if it does.
Our guest is going to be Jason Moulton, the creator and runner of South Carolina Horror, a horror convention down South Carolina. He's been a guest on the past. Also has a podcast. He used to be the owner of Vermont Comic Con. We've had him on the show a few times. Fun guy to talk to. Very off the wall.
Very off-color humor, which...
and very much... one thing I admire about him is he's very set in his ways, and he doesn't let political BS sway him in any direction, which is something I've always admired about him. And our guest co-host is going to be our friend Julia Coelho, talented cosplayer and New England area icon. Because if you know her, you know she really is an icon in the New England area.
And she is very much a...
Anything can happen.
You think I have minimal filters? She is the epitome of zero filter. Absolutely love her pieces.
Until Sunday, hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the week. Stay safe out there in this heat and the storms that are kicking through the country. Again, we will see you again right here Sunday for more Anime-Zing Radio on YouTube and Twitch. Have a wonderful